Hello, I'm Jamie Grokic, guest editor at Valiant Scribe. Today, we're fortunate to have author Marjorie Maddox joining us to discuss her collaboration on climate change with artist Karen Elias. Marjorie, can you start by telling us a little about yourself and Karen, with whom you collaborated for this showcase?
Sure. I am an author who writes in several genres. So I write poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, children's literature. I'm a professor at Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania. And I've known Karen for quite a while because we taught for a while at the same university. But she is just an amazing artist, and we kind of got together over a community ekphrastic challenge at a local art gallery. Karen is also a poet, but she's an amazing artist, photographer, an environmental activist, and I've just learned so much from her. So we started this collaboration in 2018 after this art gallery kind of partnership. And it just took off, and we got a whole book out of it. And now we're starting a new collaboration, which is in your pages, that started from this bird, the curlew, and an epigraph, a quotation from Ali Smith's novel Companion Piece. So Karen is reading this novel, and she found this quote about the curlew. It is a bird that likes books and even brings them in its beak to saints if the saints have dropped their holy books in water and they need retrieving. And so we started thinking about the curlew as a messenger about environmental issues. And what would it say to us with everything that's going on with the world and with climate change?
It's also a note of how we gain inspiration from those things around us and other people's works. You
Exactly.
note that Karen's evocative photographs motivate you to look for the narrative behind the image. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and how it impacted your work?
Yeah, there is something about Karen's work that just really draws me in. And I love ekphrastic work anyways, because it doesn't not just summarizing a piece, but it's really calling you to kind of step into the artwork and engage with it. And it can be a painting, a photograph, a sculpture, a piece of music, a quotation from literature. But Karen's work, she does a lot of collage work. She does a lot of nature poetry, but often it has this message that ties in with her passion about the environment and our responsibility to take care of it. So I love that sense of being kind of drawn into what is the story behind it. And I have to kind of decide, am I going to be speaking as the curlew and some of the images that we see in this particular collection, or am I going to be speaking as another object in the painting, addressing the sense of the overall impact of the mood. And so I might do a little research, what is happening behind the scene? What are some of the myths about the curlew bird? And in the poem that I'm going to read later, what do we learn about Curlew, Washington, and the wildfires there? So there's just so much that kind of draws me in. Sometimes her poems are like a stomach punch, and sometimes they're more subtle, but they always get you to think and feel.
Wow. And it's also, I love that you're drawing on the different perspectives that you see in a
Mhm.
painting and what's represented there. And I'm sure there's a lot of what if questions that you ask yourself to place
Exactly.
yourself in those positions of the different perspectives from paintings.
Yes, and I think a lot of what literature does, and poetry maybe in particular, is to get us to empathize with other people and people that have views like ourselves, but people who may have very different views, and to kind of reach out to them and for them also to understand us maybe a little bit better. So it's kind of a two-way street.
Yeah, it sounds that way. I'm sure. And like with all writing, as authors know, you often don't know where it's going until you've finished. And I
Exactly.
imagine that's particularly resonant when it comes to writing about artwork.
Yes, it's really a process of discovery. And there's so many things with Karen's work that I may never have thought about writing about if I hadn't, been kind of sparked by what's in the painting or the photograph.
Great. That leads us into, if you wouldn't mind sharing one of the poems from the collection and the artwork that goes along with that. So we can see for ourselves how you've been impacted by her artwork. And I'd love to see that, if we could do the painting side by side, I think that would be great.
Okay, great. So here is her image about the Curlew witnesses, Curlew, Washington. And so in this one, I mean, there's kind of a lot going on. And if you look closely, you kind of see the map of Curlew, Washington behind the bird, and this sense of ignition and danger and flame. And, then the Curlew is a little more distinct. So this is called The Witnesses, after the 2018 wildfire in Curlew, Washington. Near the confluence of Long Alec Creek and the Kettle River, the Curlew watches its namesake, town of 100, as residents stare toward the west, inhale fear. Smoke rewrites the sky where the Curlew once flew. Flames attack its map and habitat. Ridgelines pulse with what is singed, feathers, pines, mountains, horizons streaked with regret, and the burnt promises of those not there to witness, the incineration of branch, the contagion of spark, the long, slow burn of loss. O Curlew and Curlews, obscure enough to hide once within these safe acres, even you grief has found, even you. And we get this sense of the Curlew itself kind of mourning over what has taken place because of climate change and these wildfires.
Yeah, just beautiful. And I love that image paired with your words, just really helps the viewer and the listener get a sense of the tragedy that is climate change, that we often don't have a particular one emotion to point to, but I think you do a really nice job in that poem of helping us understand the significance of it and the beauty in the destruction.
Yeah. And we think sometimes that the small towns are the safe towns. We kind of couple danger with cities, but here's a town of 100 people. And I live in Pennsylvania, and I know people in California have been dealing with the wildfires for a long time. But of course, just these last months, we've been getting that smoke from Canada and walking out in this thick smoke. So this poem is kind of resonating even more with me, having experienced that recently.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your work and your inspiration and sharing some information about Karen. We appreciate your taking the time to talk with us, and we wish you and Karen the best of luck with your future creative endeavors. And we thank you very much for sharing your work with Valiant Scribe.
Thank you. I'm a big fan.
Thank you.
Bye.